What's up, guys? In the works, and after a failed attempt to land my scout chopper over here, I didn't even get across the water and I got destroyed. Because if there's one thing there's no shortage of right now, that is engineers. And I'm kind of contradicting what I'm about to say because I'm playing as an engineer myself, but it seems like a lot of people really digging the engineer class since the patch. Everybody's running around with igwas and stingers on their backs, and it's a whole new look to Battlefield 3. Before, I couldn't, I would have to beg people, get out your anti-air, get out your RPGs, get out your javelins. Now people are like, oh, no worry, allow me to destroy this tank, because I find that vehicle gameplay right now is tricky, very tricky. The only thing that seems to be able to survive, and even it has been weakened somewhat, is the Amtrak. And the Amtrak is obviously a giant turtle that cannot be destroyed except by C4. And unfortunately, I was a bad driver there. I let us get C4'd, but what are you gonna do? But yeah, everybody's using engineer now. Ever since they released the patch, more people are running around with the engineer kit, and you see a lot of people running stingers, but you see a lot of people running javelins and RPGs, and I find it's a lot harder to tank as well because of that. I think that more people have become reliant on this class, but we are looking at the G36C, and a lot of people wanted me to talk about this weapon in particular because this and the SG553, which I've always kind of considered, little long lost brothers, even though one's Swiss and one's German, they came together. Adopted brothers. Well, they feel very similar. That's the point I'm trying to get at. They feel very similar, and they both got patched, and I have really liked both of them post-patch. They've been a lot of fun to use, and they've really been my go-to engineer choices. I think I do give my edge slightly to the SG553 just because it seems a little bit more controllable. It seems a little bit better at longer ranges. But one of the things that always put me off to the G36C, and if you recall from my Xbox days, if you go all the way back in my video library, I mean all the way back, go back there and look at some of my engineer videos, you'll see me using the G36C quite frequently. Honestly, it was one of my favorite pre-major patch assault rifles. Before that big spring patch that they had, this was my go-to assault rifle on the engineer kit. I guess it's more of a carbine because it is a short-barreled variant. I think that's what the C stands for in it. But anyways, I'm kind of rambling on here. The rifle did get a substantial change in the patch. They reduced the vertical recoil on it, and they reduced the first shot recoil. And that's a big deal, because if there's one thing that had put me off to the G36 was the fact that it had so much upward recoil. The vertical recoil on this thing was just impossible and made it pretty much useless outside of close to medium range. It didn't really have the ability to reach out like it used to. Well, they've patched it. It seems to be a lot more like its former self, and that's a good thing, because you're going to see a good example here of me just picking people off at what I consider a pretty long range for an engineer weapon. I mean, I know it's not the longest of ranges, but it's beyond what I expect an engineer weapon to perform good in. So that's nice. It does possess the ability to do a lot better than its predecessor, the old version of the G36. So I've really been digging it, though. I've really had some good games with it, to be honest. Like I felt like it's a laser beam as opposed to before. It seemed like the spread was just too much. The upward recoil just made it way too hard to stay on target. So I do welcome the change. And before this patch came out, I made it my priority to go through and kind of play with all the weapons that I knew were getting changed. And the G36, the SG553, the M16, the M416, all those weapons, I went through and I was like, all right, let's take a look at these so I can kind of get a perspective of where we've come from, what the weapon kind of felt like before. And I can definitely tell you, it feels a lot better than it used to. It definitely feels more controllable. It definitely feels more like a weapon that you would want to use on a routine basis. Because let's face it, after they patched the G36 for the very first time, how many people did you actually see using this thing? Because I bet you it's not very many, because there's a lot better choices out there. You had the M4, you had the A91, now you've got all those fast fire rate engineer choices like the ACR, the MTAR. So it didn't really do well in close quarters. It didn't really do well at long ranges. So the G36 pretty much just got unnoticed. It kind of got left in the dust. And I wouldn't say it's an underused weapon, because it did get used quite frequently before they patched it, but I think that you will see a lot more people using this now that they've brought it back down to earth. I think now you'll see more people kind of kind of appreciate this. This and the SG553, the two NG weapons that I feel got the biggest buff. So really digging this, and I've really been digging Battlefield post-patch, and I might be the minority here, but I feel like they made a lot of good changes. There's some changes that I just scratch my head at, and it makes me wonder really who they have working at DICE. But I don't like to be negative. That's really not my thing. I mean, if there's something completely stupid, I'll complain about it, which, you know, I don't really know. I don't want to get into the gunner flare stuff again because I've already done 2 videos on it. If you missed my chopper video earlier, I did talk a little bit about what I thought post-patch on the chopper flares, because it is a little bit more difficult to stay in the sky now. It's much more difficult to tank, and I'm really curious to see how armored kill plays on the PC, because there's one thing you guys know, it's that PC has more players, and I've already seen that on console everybody runs engineer, and even though armored kill is not out, I still see everybody running engineer on PC. So that only makes me think that once the armored kill maps are out, all we're going to see is people running around with javelins, RPGs, and Stinger missiles all day, and it's going to make vehicle gameplay pretty non-existent, which, you know, I don't know what DICE's priority was there. It seems like by nerfing the choppers, nerfing some of the vehicles, they've actually made the NG class a lot stronger, so maybe that was their idea. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a game designer, but you know, it can get very frustrating, especially if you consider yourself a vehicle player, to actually sit down and get good games with the vehicles now, because everybody is running some sort of anti-vehicle measures, or so it seems. So hope you guys enjoyed this though. This was a really good game with the G36. I actually cut out some pretty epic Amtrak usage on the 3rd base, I believe, or actually I think it was the 2nd base, but pretty good game. I was pretty proud of that one. G36 thumbs up, in the works approval. But if you missed in my other videos, now's a chance to catch up, and I will see you guys later. Peace.